I am Sammie the Comic Book Man, and I work for, you'll hear me shill it here shortly, I work for the original Hollywood Horror Show in Snow Camp at the Haunt down there. So I do the horror con circuit with them, and then I do the comic book circuit for me, and then I do crossovers with both, so...
Dustin, you've done a few horror cons, right?
Yeah, not since 2015. With the Phantasm book, I did some book signings with Angus Scrim in New York and Chicago and Atlanta. I just saw today where they announced Robert England for Charlotte.
Mad Monster
Party.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. He's got Mad Monster.
That would be awesome.
Yes. I already have our table.
I'd love to go and take my Freddy vs. Jason book there, but that's like a week or two after I'm expecting my son to be born, so I don't think it's great timing. It kind of sucks. But
yeah, that's more important.
There'll be another opportunity.
Yeah, but it's only a day.
Kid's more important.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure
It's only
Dan
a
ditched
day.
his pregnant wife for Mad Monster Party one year.
No.
No, you didn't? Okay. I thought you did.
Babe's already born.
Oh, okay.
Let's get started here. Welcome, Earthlings, to the latest episode of the Recap Film Buffs podcast. I'm your host, Dan Sellers, along with my fantastic co-host, Mr.
Sammie Castle.
We are joined here today by my pal, Miss
Megan Squires.
Megan is an old work buddy of mine, and she actually helped us out with do a little bit of makeup. And 4 years ago, we just figured out on the Hank versus the Undead, our first film.
That's unreal.
And,
it's been 4 years.
Yeah, we got to do something again
Time flies.
together soon.
Absolutely.
Something. We are also
We
joined
have this
here.
great idea with Hank on a horse, but go ahead.
Hank on horseback. There's too many of those ideas floating around. Not enough time to actually get them done. We are joined here today to talk about the 1979 horror cult classic Phantasm. And to talk about Phantasm, we are joined by the guy who wrote the book on Phantasm. It's called Phantasm Exhumed, an Unauthorized Companion. Mr. Dustin McNeill. Say hey, Dustin.
Hi there.
Dustin is joining us through Skype, and we're going to kind of talk about the movie as we go. And Dustin, I am nowhere near the expert on Phantasm as you are. So if I make some kind of mistake, please feel free to correct me. It won't hurt my feelings.
Okay.
Have I made any mistakes so far?
Not yet.
Is it
Not
so?
yet.
So it's fair to say this is a cult classic.
Definitely.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay, I think so. This is what we were just talking about. Seems to us to be like the quintessential cult horror film. So.
I'm pretty sure you'll outrank all of us when it comes to knowledge on this
Damn,
one.
he better.
Maybe all of us put together.
So, first of all, before we get started on Phantasm, what's new, Sammie?
What is new? I am knee deep in horror show shenanigans. We have been really short-handed on actors the past couple
The
days.
season's early.
Everybody wants to show up when it's
By the time we're recording this episode.
Yeah, about Halloween time, everybody wants to show up and work, and they want to be in the prime spots. Well, in the meantime, I've been running a saw on two different ends of the house, running back and forth, and changing costumes halfway through. So, but we've had some good stories. We have a thing called a code white, where someone can't make it through the haunt anymore, that they're just done.
It's better than a code brown.
Yeah, the nuns call code white, and we have to
shit.
stop scaring them.
I didn't know that.
We had 4 the first weekend, including one in the box office, which means
box office.
which means these 2 girls walked up, bought their tickets. I stepped up on the dais where and one of them ran, or both of them ran screaming for the car. One of them never came back. Of course, I followed her all the way to the car.
That didn't help.
And just kind of stood outside the window, and she was sitting in the driver's side seat going, "Just leave me alone, please,
my
God,
God.
just leave me alone."
You're loving it, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm loving every minute of it.
Well, cool. I'm very pleased to announce, if we haven't, I don't think we have, Midnight Shift, our latest horror short film, has just been accepted into the Carborough Film Festival, which is November 18th, I believe.
Yes.
So, yeah, thank you.
Fourth.
This will be our fourth
Selection
official
already.
selection for this season. So, we're pretty excited about that. I hope I can go. It's not a far drive.
I'm going.
So I'm actually going out to the Outer Banks later this month for a screening, and then 2 days later, driving all the way to the other side of the state for a screening. So I think I should be able to make Carborough.
And while you're there, I'll be in Cary
You'll be in Cary.
at the other screening.
Yeah, we have the unfortunate. It's a good thing. It's a good problem to have. Where our movie is playing at two different film festivals at the same time, one in Cary and one in Tryon, North Carolina. So we're dividing responsibilities there. So I'm not exactly sure when this episode's going to land, but it should be before any of these film festivals. If you're dying to see our new movie, and I know you are, you can just look up our website and find out just look at our list of appearances and see when it's going to be playing.
And if you're not, you should be dying to see it.
Yeah, you should be.
If you don't, we may kill you if you don't go see it.
All right, let's get going on Phantasm. We're going to start the movie here, and
now, Dustin, we haven't met in person. I would assume that I am the only person here that remembers when this movie came out.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, you are, Sammy.
Yeah, I wasn't even born when this movie came out.
I was 9. I don't remember. I didn't see it in the theater, but I do remember seeing it on VHS.
All right, Dustin. Let me ask you first of all, what's the deal with this bad robot logo on my DVD? Are you familiar with that?
The bad robot logo?
Yeah. Did they somehow buy the distribution rights to Phantasm or something?
No, actually, J.J. Abrams is a huge Phantasm fan.
Yeah.
And he actually, if you've seen
I had
The
heard
Force
that.
Awakens,
Yeah.
he named a character in the movie after Phantasm.
Phasma.
Captain Phasma.
Yeah. So what?
He's all chrome like a silver sphere.
Yeah. Did they?
So he wanted to show the cast and crew Phantasm, and when Don Coster, the director of Phantasm, didn't have a print available, J.J. Abrams volunteered to restore the film with this beautiful 4K restoration.
Really?
That's the DVD or Blu-ray that you have there.
Oh wow. Okay. I was wondering why Bad Robot, because that came a long time after.
Oh, you missed the news story that they did about? Oh yeah, it was big about the 4K.
No, I didn't know
Didn't
that.
they do that at the same time they did Ravager? It was like a
did.
double bill kind of thing.
Thank you, J.J. Abrams.
Yeah.
Did anybody go see
coming
it
back to
at
Star Wars, too.
Nevermore?
No.
I think it was at Nevermore.
Oh, Ravager.
Yeah.
Ravager.
No, I didn't go to Nevermore.
Yeah, I saw both of them on double feature.
Oh wow, I bet that was cool. Okay, so we're opening up here.
I don't remember this leading off with sex.
on Sex in a Cemetery,
It was the 70s.
and this dude looks super freaking 70s too. I mean, I know I rock a mustache and stuff, but you couldn't get any more 70s.
Does he have
if
a
you,
porn star stash?
It's the hair. That's the hair and the.
No, that's straight up Fu Manchu.
Oh man! Oh, it's not.
Oh, there's boob.
Yes. God, I
Not
missed
the
this.
actual actress's boobs, mind you. She wasn't willing to do that.
Somebody's boobs. The Angus,
It's a body double.
Angus Scrimm's boobs.
I missed the 70s. I like boobs.
Okay, so we have the murder of the character Tommy at Morningside Cemetery. Hey, Dustin, is this the house from A View to a Kill?
Yes, it was also in Burnt Offerings.
I knew it.
And
Oh.
I Married an Axe Murderer.
I love Burnt
I
Offerings.
love. So I married an Axe Murderer. I'm a
And
huge
now
James
there
Bond
is
fan.
This house is called the Dunsmuir Mansion. It's in Oakland, California, in about the worst neighborhood you can imagine. So
Really?
it's like gang territory, and then out
No
of
shit.
nowhere, you just come across this beautiful Victorian mansion.
Huh.
Is it still there?
Yeah, they give tours and everything. It's especially beautiful at Christmas time.
Oh wow.
I bet. I love Burnt Offerings.
Now, but I would assume that the interiors were shot somewhere else.
Yeah, the interiors were shot in a warehouse in Van Nuys, California, or Chatsworth. I'm sorry, Chatsworth. Not that it matters, but
The almost all of the interiors you see is just the mausoleum part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
this place, the mansion, they host a lot of weddings every year. And last year they hosted a Phantasm wedding with spheres and the Cuda, the muscle car from the movie, and lots
Really?
of
Wow.
related elements.
That's pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah, I noticed that they used that same shot the entire film. What's the deal with that? Were they not allowed to get any closer? Do you know, or did the director just like that?
Yeah, so they essentially just had like one Saturday to get every shot they needed in front of the house for daytime and nighttime. So that's why they didn't do a lot of different camera setups. They just pretty much put the camera down and shot all day with it.
Very cool. I mean, it makes total sense that's probably the cheapest way to do it. Now, I read somewhere this film had a $300,000 budget. Does that sound right to you?
That is right, yeah.
So in a film like this, now there are a good bit of special effects. What in 1979? What is a lot of that budget going to? Is it film? Is it camera and equipment rentals? I mean, do you know?
Yeah, it was film. It certainly wasn't to pay the cast or crew because practically no one got paid until the movie was sold and released. They would rent the equipment on a Friday afternoon and then return it Monday morning. And since the equipment place was closed on Sunday, they essentially got like a free day of rental.
They just paid for one day.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Because as I'm looking at it, I'm like, I feel like I could make something comparable in 2017 with like a third of this budget, but that's because I would shoot it digitally. I wouldn't spend tons of money on film. So okay. So I had to write down the names of the characters as I was watching this to try and keep up. So our three main characters, we got Jody, Reggie, and Mike, and I literally just wrote down Jody hair, Reggie bald, and Mike kid.
There you go.
That's kind of explains it.
So now Mike is going to the soothsayer, as I would call it. I don't know if there's a better word for it.
Fortune teller.
Fortune teller. And he learns the valuable information that fear is the real killer.
Right.
Which I comes back later toward the end of the film.
So do the first scene where he's watching the tall man putting the body in the back of the casket, what do we know what really drew him to do that? Was he just out fiddle farting around like kids do back then, or?
Well, it happens. The dialogue comes quickly, but what we find out from that first shot of Jody and Reggie talking outside the mansion is that Tommy was the third member of their rock band trio. They were three best friends together, and so Mike knew Tommy, and he was just basically spying on Tommy's funeral. Jody forbid him to go to Tommy's funeral because Mike's been struggling with death lately, being that their parents had recently died. So he didn't want him coming to the church and seeing the dead body and kind of, reliving and struggling with the loss of his parents again. He's still dealing with that. So he hid in the bushes and spied on them from afar.
Ah.
I could see these three being in a rock trio. A lot of Michelob being split between those three. A lot of Coors, maybe.
Well, actually, the funny thing about that is the official beer of Phantasm is Dos Equis.
It has an official beer. That's awesome.
The filmmakers were trying to get a sponsorship while they were making the movie, and they couldn't get one except for Dos Equis, who sent like a truckload of free beer to the set.
Beer.
So as you watch the movie, try and see how many bottles of Dos Equis you can spot. I think
we're spotting one right now while they're sitting on the porch playing guitar.
There you go. They're all throughout the movie. I mean, they're in scenes you might not even realize at first.
I didn't notice it all.
I didn't either.
I just watched this the other day. Didn't notice it. Now we're going to a bar, so it makes sense to be here. Okay.
I cannot look at Reggie Bannister and not think, I'm the ice cream man. Watch me as I'm passing by.
So, any idea why he is an ice cream guy? Did they have access to an ice cream truck? Does that make sense? Or?
Well, it's actually a plot point that they deleted from the movie. It's in a deleted scene. In later Phantasms, we find out that the tall man can't stand cold. It paralyzes him. And they kind of show that a little bit in this movie. And so, Reggie, as the ice cream man, was kind of set up to be the natural enemy of this villain who can't stand cold.
All right, 21 minutes in, we're back to having sex in the cemetery once again. Because that's where I always took girlfriends back when I was a teenager, to the cemetery.
Well, they used to have those above ground,
the tombs.
Yeah, tombs where it was kind of flat, and you did it where you could. I was 9.
We just stayed in the car.
I was 9.
I love this sex scene because, it's a guy and a girl, and the girl is kind of the tall man, but it's not the girl's breasts because she had a double. It's also not the guy's ass because he also had a double. So that means there's 5 people that are a part of a sex scene involving 2 characters.
That's pretty cool.
Why would you need a body double just for an ass? Like, what's wrong with the guy's ass?
He was like, I'm not dropping my trousers in a real cemetery here for your camera.
Well, but it's not like they don't do anything but have sex. Why don't they just hire the body double to do the sex?
I would just be like, too tough shit, you're fired. We're hiring this other guy who will show his ass.
Yeah.
Hey, Dustin, what is the correct word to call these dwarves? Because everywhere in my notes it says Jawa, and I don't want to be disrespectful to Phantasm, but I don't know what they're called. Just dwarves.
Dwarves is the proper nomenclature.
Okay. Yeah, if I happen to say Jawa, just forgive me.
That's okay.
So he's spying on his brother, getting it on. I think we've pretty much established Mike's a bit of a pervert. He's little voyeuristic. He likes to watch, and the dwarf in the cloak interrupted.
I think Mike's as much of a pervert as any 13-year-old boy would be.
Pretty much.
What he told the fortune teller was that he's afraid that his brother is going to skip town and leave him behind.
So he's constantly following him.
Right, and of course Jody is planning to do that, so his fears are pretty founded.
Yeah.
With this being in '79, were the dwarves based on Jawas?
The funny thing is, this movie actually began shooting in early 1977, and they had already shot several scenes when Star Wars had come out in theaters. And so they were like, do we go back and reshoot? Do we just keep them the same? No one knew Star Wars was going to be one of the biggest films of all time, so they just kept it the same, and it's been drawing unfortunate comparisons ever since.
Okay, we almost skipped over this iconic shot here of Mike having the nightmare, and he wakes up in the cemetery with the tall man behind him, and which is, to me, it's a standout shot of the film.
Oh yeah, very iconic.
It's very memorable. It's been years since I've seen Phantasm, to be honest with you, and rewatching it just the other day, that one kind of hit me again because I wasn't expecting it, and it got me.
That the car, the Cuda, has kind of become one of the iconic film cars, especially in the horror genre. We've got certain ones, the '58 Plymouth Fury from Christine, and the Winchester brothers, Chevelle, and but this Cuda's kind of become one of the forgotten famous movie cars.
I think it deserves a place in the Movie Car Hall of Fame, but and I'm biased.
It's a pretty car. So,
and we're kind of skipping around through the movie just a little bit. While we're doing that, tell us a little bit about about your book, about what inspired you to write this.
Well, 10 years ago, I started a Phantasm blog at phantasmarchives.net. I still run that today. And through that blog, I befriended a lot of the cast and crew of the movie. I became very close friends with Angus Scrim, for example, the tall man, up until his passing in early 2016. And the book came out in in 2014, and it took me like 4 years to write it because I'd never written a book before, and there was a lot of research to do. But I sensed there was a demand for it. The audience was there, and I had a passion for it, and I knew the people, so I just tried to make it happen.
Just a labor of love, huh?
Definitely.
Yeah.
We know that feeling.
We know about that. So let me ask you: as Sammie's actually flipping through the book here, as we're taught, we have a copy of it in front of us. I happen to see just the picture of Edgar Allan Poe. Is the title Phantasm from Poe?
Yeah, I think one of the first major uses of the word phantasm was in one of Poe's poems, and I hate that I can't remember off the top of my head which one it was, but that's kind of where they found the word, and they thought that sounded kind of nebulous and vague, and they went with it.
Okay. We're coming up to a pretty cool scene here in the mausoleum. We're fast forwarding, but I'm ready to play it, where Mike is hiding in the casket, and this other guy, I don't know his name, with the hat, and then the tall man are kind of walking around looking for him, and then we have the introduction of the shiny silver orb. Is there a better name for that thing?
You just call it the silver sphere. I think that's
the silver sphere.
I guess the best name.
Okay.
The sphere of death.
Now, in the version you're watching with the sphere, the 4K restoration cleaned up the film a little bit too well. It actually started showing some of the seams and the tape and the string on the special effects that weren't previously visible. And so for this version you're watching now, Don Coscarelli had to go back and kind of clean up some of the effects with CGI, because where they previously looked pretty good, the restoration just showed too much detail.
Yeah.
Guy's got some ketchup on his arm.
All right, this is an iconic film.
Ouch.
That is some of the worst. They've had some of the worst blood in this movie. I don't know what they used for it,
Ketchup.
but it's not good.
It's ketchup.
Is it literally ketchup?
I don't know.
Oh,
Do you, Dustin? Do you know if it's ketchup?
No, I can't remember it's probably a mixture of corn syrup. But the cool thing about the scene you're watching there is, in the old versions of the movie, you couldn't see this, but you can really see it now. Not only does he bleed out from the skull, but after he falls, you can see a stream of urine coming out.
That's what we were just looking at.
It's a good little detail.
I remember
It's
reading
the details.
I read somewhere that the urine kind of hurt this movie's reputation with the MPAA, and they didn't want to give it its the correct rating because of that. Have you read that?
Oh yeah, it was quite a battle. They had to call in some favors just to get the movie to get an R rating, because it was originally given an X rating.
Yeah, which I don't think is fair at all, especially in But then again, you got to look at it in a 1979 context.
Yeah.
I think the MPAA really just stands for Must Punish All Artists. I think that's the real acronym.
Absolutely.
I've had the conversation twice in the past week about how that's kind of an outdated system and has been for a while now.
Yeah.
That literally means not a whole lot.
Yeah, I mean, do movie theaters care a whole lot about it anymore? I mean, they're gonna show what they think is gonna make money. I don't think they care about what's R and what's PG.
Other than NC-17 is the kiss of death. It's, yeah.
What's funny is Phantasm Ravager that came out last year, they didn't even bother to get a rating. They just released it unrated. I mean, sometimes you can actually make it kind of a marketing ploy if you say, "Oh, the film's unrated, uncensored, uncut." Then people are like, "Oh man, I got to find out what that's about."
That's what I tell people about our first film, Hank vs. Young Dead. It's the special edition unrated director's cut.
It's like adding organic in front of the food, It's like, it's better because it's organic.
It is the director's cut. Like, no one stepped in there and
All right, so I want to talk about the actors a little bit. Did anybody in this movie become a breakout other than these movies?
Not particularly. A. Michael Baldwin, who plays Mike, mostly did stage acting after this movie. Reggie Bannister to this day has done, I think, maybe 40 or 50 B-movie horror movies. And I think Angus Scrimm probably has done the most. You know, he's also had a horror movie career, but he's been in things like he was a regular cast member on Alias because of J.J. Abrams. And he's done some other things. But no, I think it's mostly a horror B-movie celebrity cast.
Do you think, I mean, you know, there's a long line of famous people, famous actors who have started in horror movies. Is you think there's a reason why there was no breakout here? Was it because everybody was just non-paid people just kind of get together to make a cool movie, or?
Well, you know, it's among the main cast. A. Michael Baldwin just took his life in a different direction when he got out of high school. Bill Thornberry, who plays Jody, became a music teacher. You know, Angus Scrimm actually wasn't even really a horror actor back then. He wrote liner notes for Capitol Records. He even won a Grammy for doing so. And so most of these people had actual careers aside from their acting gig, which was more of a side thing back then.
So do you know who discovered Angus for this role? Was somebody just walking along and went, damn it, dude's tall and creepy looking, let's put him in a movie?
You know, Don Coscarelli in 1974, when he was still in high school, made his first feature-length film, and it was bought by Universal, and it was kind of a big deal. Like, these high schoolers made a movie. Who does that? And they cast Angus in it, but they were so unprofessional while they were making it. They would call him to set and then never get to his scenes. He would leave angry, and as he would leave, he would shoot them a look with the raised eyebrow and the scowl. And they were like, my God, that would work really well in a horror movie. Let's bring him back and make him a villain.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
It worked.
So we're kind of watching the scene now where the tall man's finger is turned into the big bug, and like I said, I have just recently started really getting into Phantasm, but for years now I have been a fan of Bubba Hotep, and you can obviously see this is the same director at work.
With the cockroach,
especially with the bug gag, yeah.
Or the scarab. It's a scarab.
The scarab. That's what it is.
Cockroach.
The cockroach. Yeah. So I as soon as I watched it, I busted out laughing because I can certainly see that being the same director at work here.
Yeah.
With that gag.
And of course, Bubba Hotep has Reggie Bannister in it as the hospital administrator, as the doctor.
Oh, really? I need to go back and watch it. I've seen it, plenty of times, but not recently.
I love it.
Well, since we brought it up, let's talk about Don Coscarelli a little bit. Outside of the Phantasm films, he made Beastmaster.
Yep.
John Dies at the End, his more recent film, and as I just mentioned, Bubba Hotep. So have you heard any new information about Bubba Nosferatu? Is that still happening? Do you know?
You know, I think Don would like for it to happen. Unfortunately, Bruce Campbell has just repeatedly refused to come back. He doesn't like the script, which I've read the script. It's a brilliant script. Wow. Before he died, they had written a really great part for Angus Scrimm into it, where he played essentially himself, like a Boris Karloff-esque aging actor. Mm-hmm. And that would have been really great. But they're looking at having other actors come in to play Elvis now, because Bruce Campbell is not the only B-movie icon that can play Elvis. I think they've talked about, Ron Perlman coming in?
Oh, wow.
So replacing the chin with the chin.
Yeah. And really, if you think about it, you could do a different Elvis for every Bubba Hotep.
Yeah, I guess you could.
Paul Giamatti has already, he's been on board for several years to do the Bubba Nosferatu, to play Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis's manager. And I think it'd be terrific. I'm just waiting for it to happen. I wish he would get on it.
I mean, I'd love to see Bruce do it, but if he won't do it, screw it. I'll see it, no matter who's doing it.
He's not the only one. He's great, but
yeah. Okay, so let's delve just for a minute into the other Phantasm films. You have so this film came out in 1979, and then you had 9 years in between until the sequel, Phantasm 2, also same director.
Yes.
What's the major plot in I haven't seen any of the other Phantasm movies, just the first one.
Oh man, it's quite a rabbit hole. You gotta check those out.
I have heard a lot of great things about Phantasm 2. I've heard that it's better.
I actually like Phantasm 2 better than I do 1.
Yeah,
Some people do. Some people really do.
I've heard that from a lot of people. So what? I know it's a little bit of rabbit hole, but is it the same characters? Just kind of what's a nutshell overall look at
Phantasm 2 is Mike and Reggie trying to track down and destroy the Tall Man.
Okay.
And it's a much more of an action horror vibe. It's kind of like Evil Dead 2 is to Evil Dead 1.
Ah.
It's funnier. It's much faster paced. It's much gorier. And it's a lot of fun. It's a great 80s action horror sequel.
Okay. Yeah, I actually think it's streaming somewhere right now, and I was about to watch it the other day, and I was like, no, damn it, I need to go back and watch Phantasm first. I don't want to just skip into it, but okay. Then you have Phantasm 3, Lord of the Dead from 1994. Can you give me a overall look at that one?
Yeah, so I don't want to spoil too many of the major plot points because there's some twists and surprises beginning in Phantasm 2. But Phantasm 3 is Mike and Reggie against the Tall Man again, and this time Mike's brother is back, Jody. And that's kind of strange because as far as we knew, Jody was dead and is dead.
Okay. All right, then there's just 4 years after that, 1998, Phantasm 4, Oblivion.
Right. And the cool thing about Phantasm Oblivion is the original cut of Phantasm was almost 3 hours long. There are so many deleted scenes, really good deleted scenes from Phantasm, that they use in Phantasm Oblivion 20 years later. And so what happens is, in that film, you have like Mike and Reggie and the Tall Man. In one scene, they're younger, and then they walk into a room or go to the next shot, and they're, 20 years older.
Oh, wow.
It's really surreal. It's very David Lynchian, very much like Twin Peaks, the fourth one. It's interesting.
Or very much like Blake Edwards' Trail of the Pink Panther, maybe.
It comes off way better than that.
Yeah, I hope it does, because that one doesn't come off very well.
No, it's really, it's kind of like...
But it makes sense.
Flashbacks to moments that never happened, alternate realities and nightmare visions of the past. Although I love the Pink Panther, the clip one trail, it's nowhere near that hokey.
Sure. Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. And now we have the latest and possibly final Phantasm film from last year, Phantasm Ravager.
Oh yeah.
So what were your thoughts on that one?
It took them 8 years from the first day of filming to get it released. From the first day of filming to the theatrical release last October, a year ago, it was 8 years.
Wow.
And I was really expecting to not like it because I heard a lot from the people that worked on it while they were working on it. It was done in secret. It began as a web series and then became a feature film. It was really convoluted. I wound up loving it. I thought it was terrific. I thought it was smart and thoughtful. Yeah. And to tell you how divisive the film is, you guys know the website Bloody Disgusting, right? BloodyDisgusting.com?
Yes.
They do a top 10 and worst 10 at the end of every year. Phantasm Ravager made both lists.
Well, I remember listening to some friends of ours, Horror News Radio, and when Ravager came out, and they seemed to be kind of divided on it too. Yeah. From my recollection, so I fully intend to go back and catch up on my Phantasm. But I wanted to make sure I understood Phantasm, the first one first, because the first time I saw it, maybe it was just because I was not in a good place to watch it. It just didn't make any sense to me, it takes doing this show sometimes for me to really get a movie and really kind of do the research and take notes and stuff like that. So,
well, expect for it to make way less sense going forward. It's going to get really
I start saying it does get even more convoluted. I did not rewatch for the podcast, which was bad on my part. But I've seen the original probably 4 or 5 times, but it's probably been the 90s since I've seen it. So I remember even back then in the 80s when I was really steeped and knee deep in horror, that it was really confusing and convoluted then. So Sometimes you just had to look at that stuff and go, okay, that's happening, and go on with it.
The later films especially are designed for you to kind of draw your own conclusion, and if you want to see it one way, then you can totally make a case for that, and if you want to see it a different way, you can. And a lot of people don't like that. They want a clear-cut ending that tells them who won and who lost, and that just does not happen in this series.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this, even the first movie is lives and dies by the Spheres and Angus. So, it's I'll probably answer my own question when it comes to actors, because that explains why nobody else really broke out, because you really didn't care about anybody else except those people, Angus and the Spheres.
What's really amazing is in the original Phantasm, the same 5 cast members, which is Mike, Jody, Reggie, the lady in lavender, and the tall man, for the most part, they stick around for the entire series, so that 35 years later in Phantasm Ravager, those same 5 cast members are back. And so to have a cinematic journey last nearly 4 decades, and you get to see the characters grow in age and literally age, it's really interesting. It's you don't get that with many franchises.
It's pretty unique.
Now, why do you think it took? I mean, I'm sure this wasn't a hit in the theater, but it was a pretty good hit on video. Why do you think it took so long to get the sequel made?
Actually, the first Phantasm was the biggest, most popular of all 5 films. It grossed, I think, between 12 and 15 million back in 1979. I mean, it was quite a hit. The reason Don Coscarelli waited almost a decade to make Phantasm 2 is he didn't want to be typecast as a horror director, which was unavoidable. It happened anyway.
Yeah. Well, he was wanting to do other things, I guess.
Yeah, he tried to do Beastmaster, and that was a pretty rough experience for him. He did another movie, and all people wanted him to do was horror. They kept coming at him, hey, make this movie. They tried to get him to make Nightmare on Elm Street 2, and he said, no, I don't want to do that. And they threw a Texas Chainsaw Massacre at him. He said, I don't want to do that either.
Damn. I don't know that I could pass down some films like those. Those are big franchise films, I would
yeah, he embraced it eventually, and he wrote and directed Phantasm 2, 3, and 4, and then he wrote 5, but he let someone else direct it.
Yeah.
Was it the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 that they tried to get him to direct?
No, it was one of the later ones.
Oh, okay.
I forget which one.
It's the one with Matthew McConaughey.
Post Toby Hooper.
Yeah, Next Generation.
There's a podcast
Deep Space
episode
Nine.
for you.
Better. No. Let me ask, I've read that the story of Phantasm is somewhat based off of Ray Bradbury's Something Wicked This Way Comes. Is that correct?
It is correct. That's the movie that Don Coscarelli actually wanted to make. And when he found out that Disney had already gotten the rights to it, he essentially just tried to take the same premise, which is, a few kids that know this terrible evil is operating in this small town, and then made it into Phantasm, because it's essentially the same framework.
Yeah, which is a kind of a common theme you see a lot in horror films. I'm looking at the back of Sammy's cell phone right now on his case for It, which sounds kind of familiar as well. As a group of small town kids, facing the town evil. All right, we're back. We're back in the mausoleum, and the spear is chasing Mike around. Now, what's this set made out of? As I'm sure it's not an actual mausoleum, correct?
No, it's not. It's just a warehouse. They put up plywood and 2x4s and covered it in contact paper, the kind that you put in like your cabinets.
I like it. That's the one thing I've said about this movie I like is it's a great example of the creativity that can come from limitations.
Oh yeah.
And as a fledgling filmmaker myself, who often works with pretty small budget, I found that some of the best decisions are often made just when I'm forced to go without, or I'm forced to limit myself, and it actually opens up a whole other level of creativity that I don't think some bigger budget filmmakers have to work, that they don't have those restrictions. Like I'm thinking about James Cameron right now. He's probably spending $1 billion as we speak on avatars, and I'm not saying that they're going to be creatively bankrupt or anything, but it to me it's not as fun to watch somebody make a film when there's absolutely no limitations on what they can do. It's just, I don't know.
You speak the truth, absolutely. When you've got everything you could possibly want at your disposal, every tool of the filmmaking trade, I think it makes you lazy. The fierceness of your ambition and your creative edge, it's just not there. Yeah,
I think this film is a great example of that too, of what they were able to accomplish with so little, and. Okay, now we have. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here.
Is Reggie not one of the most unorthodox heroes of any movie ever?
Oh yeah, he's great. He's kind of like a less arrogant, obnoxious version of Ash from The Evil Dead. It's like, this guy should never be a hero. This is not your muscular, beefy. He's a regular guy doing the best he can.
Yeah, well, and in Ash's defense, it took him a couple movies to get there. Now, we just saw this scene where Mike grabs hold of the two poles sticking up in the middle of the White Room, and he sees this dark, red, hot world with all the little Jawas marching in a row in the desert. Now, this is the tall man's home planet. Is that basically what we're left to assume?
That's the implication, yeah.
Does it have a name?
Just the red planet.
The red planet. Okay. Do the future films have it take place at all on the red planet, or?
Phantasm 2 goes back to the red planet briefly, but the ending of Phantasm Ravager, one of the last moments of the entire series, has a longer sequence on the red planet, which is pretty interesting.
Oh, let me get back to the question I meant to ask you earlier. Are you aware of any plans to make more Phantasm movies? And if so, are you for that, or do you think they need to wrap it up? What do you think?
I'm of two minds about it. I think Ravager is a really nice finish to the series. Yeah. And the big question is, can you even do Phantasm without Angus Scrimm? Is that even possible? Yeah. I do know that they've talked publicly. There are ways to do a sixth one. There are ways to do it without Angus, and they also have a lot of unused footage of Angus. Yeah. So, what's the right way to go? Should they stop here? I don't know. Yeah. They could do it, knock it out of the park, or they could really screw it up. Yeah. Who's to say? Yeah.
Has there been any talks of a reboot?
Oh, a total remake, I guess.
No, don't do that.
They tried to do that in 2005. New Line Cinema actually announced it. In the Hollywood Reporter, they had bought that they were doing it, but the reason they stopped it was they couldn't really agree on the details of it. Don Coscarelli wanted the remake to have Mike, Reggie, and the Tall Man in it, which made it more of a sequel than a remake.
It's not a remake.
But I think eventually it'll happen, just because these actors are really getting up there. Angus Scrimm was 89 when he passed away. I mean, you can't keep making these movies when people are into their later years. If you're going to keep it going, you got to bring new blood in.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think they could almost do a reboot. This is one of those movies, to me, I think is prime for a reboot. Yeah. And I don't know that I would disagree with them trying to do a reboot. I just did another podcast. I guested on another show, and we did Gerald's Game, and that's got the guy played Lurch from the Addams Family, who was like 6'7" or something, and kind of has that almost Angus look to him, without the hair.
Also in Twin Peaks.
Yeah, and
who's old now.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's in his 60s now too. Yeah. But someone like that, I think, would be would be right. I think it's right for a reboot. This is one of those movies where I think it kind of it's got this cult following, and it's known in the horror community, but I don't think it's known that much outside of it. Yeah. I think that makes it prime for a reboot.
The way they could screw it up is to try and bring in people to imitate Angus Scrimm or Reggie Bannister or Mike. I think maybe you can't do the same tall man. Maybe do a tall woman. Maybe bring in an actor with a whole different physique. I just don't think you can. If they're doing impersonations, it's going to fall on its face because they're not Angus Scrimm. They're not Reggie Bannister. If they make it something new, it might work.
Have Captain Phasma, Christine, whatever her name is.
Now, so you recently released the Freddy vs. Jason book. Now, what's the title of that?
That book is called Slash of the Titans: The Road to Freddy vs. Jason.
I like it. Okay, so let me ask you, what's your take on the both franchise remakes that came out? Probably 10 years ago now. The Friday the 13th and the Nightmare on Elm Street remakes. Are you fan or not?
Nightmare on Elm Street, God, that did not have a good script.
Yeah.
And I think it had a rough cast, although I feel bad for Jackie Earle Haley because, I mean, between the CGI and the script, that guy didn't have a chance. I mean, is he good or bad? I can't even tell.
Yeah.
He didn't have a chance. Friday the 13th, as much as I loved Derek Mears as Jason, I thought that was a really shitty reboot.
So the reason I bring those up because that's what I'm worried about. Anytime I think of a horror franchise being remade, is those two. Something.
But they're big.
Yeah.
I mean, those are huge. Those are characters
everybody knows.
Everybody knows.
Not
I don't know
knows
that everybody knows
and,
the tall man in the
So I agree with Sammie. I think it is. This is the type of thing that should be remade. Something that not everybody is already very familiar with outside of the horror fans. So
somewhere in this office, I have a Freddy vs. Jason, the side-by-side movie poster, the one where they're standing side by side and with the glove down and the machete down.
You know what's so funny? That's like an iconic, amazing poster. But the one thing that gets me is if you look at that poster, Freddy's glove is on the wrong hand.
Yeah.
Like, how do you screw that up?
Yep.
They just couldn't switch them.
No,
they couldn't do it.
Yeah.
They just couldn't let it. Hey guys, just you stand here.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I actually love that movie. So
yeah, I do too. I had a blast
seeing
in theaters. All right, we are nearing the end of this film, and it occurs to me as I was taking notes, sometimes it helps me to follow.
This movie is only an
hour.
Hour
and 30.
Okay.
90 minutes.
We've recorded for an hour.
It helps me to follow along a plot if I just take notes about the beats of the film as it goes. And I got down towards the bottom of the page and I just kept writing and kept writing. It seems like it ended several times, or should have ended, or was about to end, and then just kept going a little bit more.
Can you tell us? Can you tell us a good Angus story since you got to spend some time with him?
Yeah. Angus was hugely involved in the book I wrote. He wrote the introduction for it. He gave an interview. He contributed his personal set journals from the movies that are included in the book. And when we were doing the book signings, he recorded a series of videos for my stepdaughter, who was I think 4 or 5 then. We were struggling to get her to eat her vegetables, and so he recorded some videos for her, saying she needed to eat her broccoli, and if she didn't, the tall man would know. And did the eyebrow and the voice and everything, and she would send him like color pages of the vegetables she ate, and they had a pretty cute little correspondence. It was great.
That's awesome.
That's pretty cool.
We again, I'm gonna go back to the horror show. I'm actually. I'm out front. My character's out front. I'm the host of the show, and I kind of play off of the tall man and didn't realize I was doing it until probably the 3rd or 4th time. I'm 6'2", so I'm fairly tall anyway. You put me in boots, I'm 6'4". You put a top hat on me, I look like I'm 6'6". So I look like I'm pretty good size anyway. But when I normally walk around the front and I walk really slowly. But then if I get somebody or if they're standing across the parking lot kind of eyeballing me, I will go into the tall man walk to where I'm taking these great big strides and walking across there really, really fast, but doing it in big strides. And I thought, about the third time I did it, I went, God, it's just like Angus Scrimm walking.
There you go.
Yeah, so it influenced me, and I didn't even realize it was influencing me.
We just got to get you a sphere, and you'll have it down pat.
We can do that.
Oh,
be
call
awesome.
Dean. Let me text Dean right now.
You got some. You got some pool table balls. We could just.
Yeah, we can.
Pool table balls, yeah.
Yeah.
Put
billiard
knives at them.
balls.
They've made replicas, haven't they?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They actually did a DVD set twice.
I remember
this
those.
year and then
Yeah.
That's right.
a decade ago where they put like the DVDs inside the sphere.
Yeah.
But only in the UK. We haven't gotten that in the States.
I want a working sphere.
Certainly, with drone technology nowadays, we could make something happen.
I
You know, that actually happened at the Alamo Draft House last year when they showed Phantasm. They rigged 2 spheres to drones and flew them over the audience.
Well, and I started to say that's another reason for a reboot. Now you can get that point of view shot from the sphere.
That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
I've thought how cool that would be. They haven't gotten to use that technology yet, but that would really change how they shoot those sequences, I would think.
That's it. Reboot. Recamera Productions.
It's decided.
Written by Dustin McNeill.
Yeah, I'm sure Don Coscarelli will be happy to give up all control over
He's held on
Phantasm
to the rights long enough. I'm sure
to
he'll
us
just give them up.
because of our vast body of work in the horror field. I'm sure he's.
Got some good ideas. I know a
if
guy
he
with a
does,
drone.
Dustin, we'll be coming to you to pen that script. So.
All right.
Fair. Sounds fair. Okay. Now we're here at the very end of the film where it's kind of assumed that Jody didn't make it, looking cool as hell in this picture with his guitar and the dog, and Mike and Reggie are left to kind of comfort each other at the end, and until we see in the mirror, boy. And this last scare of the film really got me too. I wasn't expecting it.
So I don't know if you noticed, but in that one last shot where Angus, says "boy" and he's reflected in the mirror, did you notice that his hair was not the tall man's regular haircut, but much, much shorter?
I didn't, but I'll go back and look.
Well, this was not the original ending to the movie. This was something they shot long after they had actually already test screened the movie, and Angus thought it was all over, so he cut his hair real short because he didn't like having the long hair. And then Don Coscarelli said, "No, we got to go back and shoot a new ending to it." And it's so quick that a lot of people don't notice, but it's completely different than how his hair was in the rest of the film. The original ending to the movie, did you see the shot where Mike was standing over Jody's grave and the camera pulls back?
Yeah.
Yes.
Originally, the camera, that shot kept going. They cut it off in the movie, but originally, the camera kept pulling back until it passed a funeral that was in progress. And the tall man was the priest, and the lady in lavender was a mourner. And you realize, kind of like the usual suspects, that Mike had created this fantasy from all these elements around him, his brother's death, the tall priest at the funeral, and that it was all made up. And they decided ultimately they wanted to kind of bring the tall man back for one last jump scare, and so they shot the ending they shot.
And this was I didn't think about this. This was pre the Friday the 13th jump scare.
And pre-nightmare.
Yeah, it was.
Jump scare at the end.
But post the Carrie one, so I wondered.
Yeah.
I thought maybe it was the originator, but I guess the Carrie one was the first one.
Well, we're going to be wrapping up our episode here on Phantasm. Dustin, where can our listeners find more of you and your wisdom and wit? Besides buying the book.
I don't know how much of either I have to offer, but my Phantasm blog is at phantasmarchives.net.
Very cool.
And I keep that pretty regularly updated.
You got any cool horror cons or Mad Monster or anything like that planned upcoming, or?
I was nothing in the works, but I saw where Robert Englund is going to be. Like I told you at Mad Monster
Mad
party.
Monster, yeah.
I'm I'm just like, I hate the timing of that, because that would be so much fun to go to and just like spend 3 whole days there just soaking all that up.
Sure.
If you make it down, make sure you come by the original Hollywood Horror Show table. I'll be bouncing around there somewhere. Last year we were around across from Tom Savini, which was pretty cool.
That's a good spot.
Yeah, I'm not a Tom Savini. I love his work. I'm not a Tom Savini person fan.
Well, I don't know what he's like as a person, but I love his work.
I've met him 3 times now. I'm not.
Is he a jerk?
He can be.
That's disappointing.
I'll tell you this.
That's why they say never meet your heroes.
But yeah, I'll be bouncing around, and I think I'll be at Days of the Dead too.
That's a great show.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Megan, if any of our listeners wanted to find you, how would they be able to do that, or no?
No, I live in the darkness.
Very cool. Don't blame you.
Well,
what about
guys,
you?
Thank you so much for having me on.
No, thanks so much for coming. Sammie, where could our listeners find more of you and your wit?
I will be found on the Red Planet, boy. You can find me at all the social media at Sammie Castle, Facebook page Sammie the Comic Book Man, and my regular page. And you will find me for the next 19 days, 20-some days, however many days to Halloween at the original Hollywood Horror Show. Either inside the house chasing you with a chainsaw or out front being the host of the Hollywood Horror Show.
Very cool. And
What a calling.
yeah. We are on Instagram at Regabbit Productions. I'm on Twitter at Hank vs. the Undead. You can find all of our pages on Facebook. I think there's like 7 of them now. to look
Midnight
between.
Shift, Recabbit Productions, Recabbit Film Bus.
Yeah. Or you can just go to our website, recabbitproductions.com, to find everything that we're up to. And as always, you can reach out to me and to us at recabbitproductions@gmail.com. So, we will be back in another week with another horror film to round out our October horror extravaganza. And until then, hey, boy.